Well, hello everybody. This is Tim Green with Rattle Magazine. Welcome to the Rattlecast. We're the biggest freewheeling live stream poetry podcast on the planet, in your ears and on your laptops. Our guest for episode number 326 is Billy Collins. He'll be here in about 5 minutes, but before we get in, I should say that Rattle is a publication of the Rattle Foundation, a 501c3 nonprofit working to promote the practice of poetry. We've been in continuous publication since 1995 and are unaffiliated with any other organization. We just do all this. We love poetry. I know you do too, so please do click on that like button and share. Make sure you're subscribed. Ring the bell for notifications. Whatever you can do to help spread poetry around the internet would be much appreciated. As we often do, we're going to start out with our Poets Respond poet this week, and a very powerful and important poem we had from Rowda Mohamud, who is here with us right now. Hey, Rowda, how you doing?
I'm very well, thanks, Timothy. How are you?
I'm doing great, and it's wonderful to have you on. And this was one of those poems that I learned a lot from, which I always love to do through poetry. It's like the best way to learn, and also really moving too. Do you want to share how the poem came to be, what you were writing about?
Yeah, so I happened to be speaking to my great aunt, my granddad's sister, who lives in Minneapolis. And we talk all the time, but she was just in a state this time around because of everything that's going on in the state of Minnesota with all of the ICE raids. And she is a retiree. She's lived in the United States for 35 years, maybe longer. And she said, we don't leave our homes except to, go get groceries. And she in particular does not leave because her husband feels that, he's got to be the man and go out, but they carry all of their identification, like all the way back to when they first arrived in the United States. They don't even feel comfortable just having their American passport. And I thought, oh my God, this, and then just all of the name calling that they'd been subjected to. And then she just started laughing and she said, I don't know, but President actually understands that you can't really make fun of Somalis because we've already taken the joke and poked fun at one another. And then she talked about her own dad's name, which is in the poem. So my great grandfather is mentioned in the poem. That's her dad. She's like, my dad's the lame. But come on now, right? So that's really what inspired the poem. And really, I wrote it for family. And then I shared with my sister, and she said, you should be brave and try and put this out into the world. And here we are.
Yeah, well, I'm so glad you did. It's a really wonderful poem. Do you want to go ahead and read it?
Yes. What do you call a group of Somalis? A nation of epithets. My grandfather is Mohamud Burgal, goes into flower, son of Hassan, son of Jamachis, the lame. What can you call us when we've named each other everything, lovingly? White of forelock, lion's claw, Paris and Peking, silver of tooth, dusk's reddish haze. We've called each other everything. Need I continue? And so you wonder, what is it with these people? A little lesson. We looked at the sky and said, yeah, the whole of it, all of the blue above the world, our flag, that blue, and throw in a star while you're at it, just the one to make a point. A certain group call themselves the Blues, a joke of a colonizer. And we said, behold, this blue, the horn, all of it reclaimed under the blue, caressed by the blue, sky and sea, sea and sky. With what words then can you limit a people wide as the sky, deep as the sea, claiming horizons for themselves? With what words can you exile a people who are home under any sky? Every sky, our blue, every sea, our salt, every star, our star. With what words do you threaten a people nomadic in the soul who know now is just now and nothing is forever, but here's a cup of shah anyway. Every stranger, Abayo, my sister. Every stranger, Aboe, my brother. Shake off the cold and stay a while. Oh, the Adhan's almost in, and now we stand, bold and humbled. With what words can you shame a nation of Mohammeds. So many Mohammeds. TLDR, what do you rightly call a group of Somalis? Somali Mohammed, everywhere where there's a sky.
Yeah, beautiful poem. Once again, that was What Do You Call a Group of Somalis by Rowda Mohamud. Thanks so much for joining us and sharing that poem this week, Rowda.
Thank you, Timothy.
Yep, take care. Yeah, that was Rowda Mohamud once again. That was our Poet Respond Poet of the Week. If you have a poem that responds to current events, all you have to do is submit it by Friday night at midnight. Go to rattle.com, find our Poet Respond page, submit it there by midnight, and we like to keep poetry relevant to the national discourse, the international dialogue. It's really important that we do that, and those are often the most popular poems that we publish online at rattle.com, so do submit your poems by midnight. Also, if you don't yet, sign up for the daily poem by email that's in the footer there. Just put your email in, you'll get a daily poem every morning, including those Poets Respond poems. Now we're going to take a quick break and go to our main guest, Billy Collins. So sit tight and we'll be right back with a whole lot more poetry. And we're back. Thanks for your patience. Like I said, today's guest is Billy Collins. Billy's contributed to Rattle frequently over the years, including an interview in issue number 15, which is now out of print, I believe. But he's the author of 16 collections of poetry, including Sailing Alone Around the Room, Aimless Love, and most recently, Dog Show, which is right here. He served 2 terms as United States Poet Laureate and is a former distinguished professor of English at Lehman College and New York State poet. He lives in Winter Park, where we've caught him with his wife, Suzannah. Here he is, Billy Collins. Hey, Billy, how you doing?
Hi. Now it's caught up with him.
Caught up with him.
Actually, caught up with me. That's right. We rehearsed this.
We did. We rehearsed this before the show. We caught up with Billy Collins in his office in Winter Park. It was tough to catch him before he flew away, but we got him.
Coming around his own desk. Did everyone hear the Rowda's poem?
Yeah, we all did. Mm-hmm.
I guess we should say a word about that. It was such a powerful poem to instead of the poem of complaint or direct protest, it was so strong because she's claiming her Somali identity, and it's that they call themselves all these names. They're immune to outside name calling, and then the sense of hospitality and throw in a star is a beautiful little casualness. So it's not this angry fist shaking protest, and there's room for those too, but a poem of great confidence of claiming the integrity of this nation whose citizens are being chased by our troops or ICE or whatever. Anyway, wonderful poem by Rowda.
Yeah, definitely. And it's the power of intimacy, that honesty and authenticity and kind of like she's whispering in our ear, telling us a secret almost and letting us in on it, which is something that your poems do so well, I think, is have that intimate, direct conversation with the reader. It feels very private, even as it's public at the same time. So I think it's a good leap off into talking about that in your poetry. But do you want to start out with a poem first, Billy? And I know we talked about reading poems from Dog Show, but you also said you might want to read some other poems too. So I don't know where you want to go, but why don't you read something?
I like that. Let's keep read something and then read something else. Well, I wanted to. I very much love this magazine, 5 Points, one of my favorite. This is the new article, the new issue, rather. And I wanted to read a poem from there. Yeah. So I'll read this poem called Unanswered Prayers. The reason most prayers are not answered and why there is only silence when you reach Amen is not that God is indifferent and having his nails done, or worse for some, that there is plainly no God. The reason is simply that God is too busy trying to listen to the incessant murmur of incoming prayers to have the time to sort them all out, much less intercede in the lives of us millions. So maybe if we stopped praying for a few days, say a long holiday weekend, and gave him a chance to catch up with all the constant imploring before dropping to our knees to resume our supplications just where we left off. Maybe this little pause would give God time to respond. I'm not saying Uncle Bob would recover from the surgery, but maybe there would be a sign, a bird at your window, a rose in the winter garden, or the soul of Uncle Bob flying at top speed over your chimney.
Yeah, so it's Unanswered
I just love
Prayers,
the image
a new
of
poem
Bob
by
going.
Billy Collins. Yeah, from 5 Points.
I'm not sure
So
what top speed would mean for Bob, but
hmm, yeah, so that was a newer poem, Billy. And what do you feel like you're doing right now with poetry? I mean, we have Dog Show, and which is this book, which includes watercolors, an anthology of your poems about dogs. Um, and do you find yourself going in a certain direction with the newer work you're doing right now?
yeah, I'm going in a doggy direction. I mean, I'm writing, I think, similar poems. I mean, if I step back from it all, which is I try not to do, um, but I didn't. I was writing poetry ever since I was in high school. I'll speed this up, but I didn't really figure out a way to write the poems that I'm still writing in a way until I was in my mid 30s, and then my first book came when I was in my 40s. So it took a long time to figure this out. But once I figured it out, there's this expression, finding your voice, which is kind of in workshops presented as the holy grail of the creative crusade or life. And finding your voice is really, if you think about it, in a way, a competitive thing, because finding your voice just means, well, not just, but it means that you've found a way to write poems that are different from anyone else's poems. That's what it really means, practically speaking. When Seamus Heaney finished his signature poem, Digging, that was his revelation. He said he wasn't praising the poem outright, but he said that was the first poem he'd written that when he read it back, he thought no one else could have written that but me. Huge, epiphanic, life-changing moment when if and when you get to that point. Well, let's go back to Dog Show then. Can I just give you a little origin story?
Yeah, yeah, please do. We'd love to hear
We
it.
have all the time in the world. Well, it's because there is actually is a story. Um, Dog Show started kind of fortuitously. A friend of mine, we'll call him Mark because that's his name. Um, he, among other things, collects art books, or not art books, book art, right? Books that are made their physical nature is qualifies them as a piece of art. And he subscribed to a press, a little press in England, hand letter press, run by a guy named Andrew Morehouse, who's unfortunately no longer with us, and not with us to see the bigger publication of Dog Show by Random House. But he did Andrew Morehouse did from England, did maybe 4 or 5 books of poems a year, very special editions. And so my friend Mark connected him with me, and Andrew said, "Oh, well, I'd love to do a little book of yours." And I thought, well, I could just give him an assortment of poems, but maybe a theme would be good, like, I don't know, dogs. Anyway, this is the original Dog Show. Um, this is the Andrew Morehouse letterhead. This is in a box. It's a really fine, what they call a presentation copy with the case, and this very fine paper. Whoops, something fell out there. The dog fell out. Okay, and it has the Pamela Stibel um, watercolors, drawings. And it's just this beautiful work of art. Well, when this was published 4 or 5 years ago, Pamela and I, the artists, each got maybe 3 copies. This is one of them. And it's so gorgeous. We had to just show everybody we knew and show it around. But we had to say to them, well, first of all, you can't have this. And second of all, you can't buy this. So it's like, well, what the hell? But then, based on that, and just our desire to get the poems out more, I talked to my editor at Random House, and he agreed that Dog Show needed to go to more than 120 people, and that's how many copies Andrew Morehouse would do. 120 copies, period. That's it, of each book. And so that's why now it's this is you held it up, of course, but this is the more affordable Dog Show, not $140, but a mere $19.95. So that's the little origin story of it, and we're just Pamela and I and lots of people. My editor at Random House are just very happy that it's and I think there were 12 or 13 poems in the original. And so I got busy and wrote about another 12 poems, and there were 25 poems in the current Dog Show.
Yeah, well, it's such a great book for a lot of reasons. And one of the things that I always, maybe that I care most about, is introducing people to poetry and expanding more people into like the mental wonder that is this way of imaginatively exploring the world. You know, there aren't enough people, I think, that read and participate in this great art form. And so having a book that has a theme to it that so many people love is just the perfect gateway for bringing more people into poetry. And do you think of it like that? And is there a certain poem in the book maybe that works best as a gateway poem?
Well, I don't think about it like that, really. Sometimes in moments of contentment, I think there are just enough people reading poetry. There are certainly just enough people writing poetry, maybe a little more. But yeah, well, this book, in terms of bringing people into poetry, let's bringing dog people into poetry. People who don't read poetry but love dogs will buy this book. Well, I think this is maybe this was one that would appeal to both poetry readers and dog lovers. And it's called Another Reason Why I Don't Keep a Gun in the House. The neighbor's dog will not stop barking. He is barking the same high, rhythmic bark that he barks every time they leave the house. They must switch him on their way out. The neighbor's dog will not stop barking. I close all the windows in the house and put on a Beethoven symphony, full blast, but I can still hear him muffled under the music, barking, barking, barking. And now I can see him sitting in the orchestra, his head raised confidently as if Beethoven had included a part for Barking Dog. When the record finally ends, he is still barking, sitting there in the oboe section, barking, his eyes fixed on the conductor, who is entreating him with his baton, while the other musicians listen in respectful silence to the famous Barking Dog solo, that endless coda that first established Beethoven as an innovative genius.
And that was another reason I don't keep a gun in the house from Billy's new book, Dog Show.
Some people think that's a cruel poem because it implies that if I did keep a gun in the house, I would have shot that dog. But this poem is not a new poem, and one way to express its age is that dog, and it was a real dog next door, is either now dead or the oldest dog in the world. So in either event, he is silent.
Um, well, I believe you're between dogs right now. Right? Is that the case?
Yes, behind me is my most recent dog, Jeannine, who's a little, I don't know if you can see that, but it's there. Who's a little, was an Australian mix, kind of Australian Shepherd mix, female Jeannine. And yeah, since then I haven't either had the heart or I don't know what it takes to get another dog. Because, I've said this before, but when I was, a kid and I wanted a dog, we lived in an apartment in New York. And my father told me, well, people in apartments don't have dogs. And then, when I'd be out on the streets, I'd see people in New York walking dogs. And I was wondering, well, what do they do with the dogs if they don't keep them in their apartments? Is there some place they'd put the dog and then walk it the next day? Well, when I was older, I realized that, well, these dogs are actually housed in the apartments. But still, my father's word held true because he was my father. But we moved to Westchester County to the suburbs of New York, and then we had a little property and a lawn and all that. And so my father yielded, and we got a dog, Sparky. And my father, before we got the dog, he said he gave in, and he said, "Okay, we'll get you a dog, but remember, we're buying a heartache." And that's true of every dog. It's a heartache on a leash. The dog will, someone said, dogs have no faults except one. They die before you do, in most cases. So there's Jeannine. That was an oil painting of a heartbreak, basically.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. Well, it's tempting always to share your own dog stories. I mean, I had a German Shepherd who was huge for years, and I think that's one of the things we saw you read in Austin, and from this book last November when it came out, and you had, instead of like a question, you had a room, like a space you presented for everybody to share their own dog stories to kind of just to get it over with, I guess. What was the most interesting though dog story? Have you heard any that might make it into poems, or is there anything coming from those readings that you find interesting?
I don't know. It made question and answer period much more fun because people, instead of asking literary questions like "What is your process," which is the real killer, they'd start to tell their dog stories, this and that. I don't know. I mean, a story about Jeannine. When I first got her, she was not trained. I took her to school, and so she would behave herself. And dogs really enjoy behaving themselves. They like to have rules. But before she had any training, she was very young. I was taking her on this walk along the reservoir in New York, and there was a guy fishing from the shore there, and Jeannine was off leash, And she ran over and started jumping up on this guy. And you could tell right away he was not a dog person. And I started very embarrassed. I started saying, Jeannine, stop it. Jeannine, get down. Jeannine, Jeannine, stop it. And he looked at me and he said, you sure that dog's name is Jeannine?
Uh,
And I
uh,
start to wonder because, T.S. Eliot talks about cats having several names, and the one we give them is not really their true name. So a dog might also have an interior name that only he or she knows.
yeah, well, definitely. Well, let's hear another poem, Billy. Do you want to read more from Dog Show?
Sure. Did you have any that you wanted to hear, or well, I can
Um,
pick one.
yeah, you can pick whatever. I
Uh,
think I love The Revenant is one of my favorite in the book. But whatever you want to read is great.
Well, let me read this little one. It's also where the dog is talking, and maybe we could get to the Revenant, which is similar to this. And this is just 9 lines and 3 stanzas. No, it's 12 lines, 3 stanzas, 4 lines. And it's called A Dog on His Master. As young as I look, I am growing older faster than he. 7 to 1 is the ratio they tend to say. Whatever the number, I will pass him one day and take the lead, the way I do on our walks in the woods. And if this ever manages to cross his mind, it would be the sweetest shadow I have ever cast on snow or grass.
A dog and
I
his
think
master. Yeah.
that I find it an interesting poem in that there are many books out about how dogs think or do they feel, and this kind of abiding curiosity about what's going on inside their heads. And one thing we're conscious of is, as I said, the mortality of the dog, and something that increases the or sharpens the sadness of losing a dog is that they didn't know that they were going to die.
Hmm.
Presumably, a dog does not have a sense of its own mortality. So when it does die, it doesn't know that it's dying. It knows something's wrong, and I don't know how to get any further into that. It comes on as a new sense, something they've never felt before, and then they die. But in this poem, the dog actually is imbued with a sense of its own mortality, right? I will pass him one day. The dog knows the 7 to 1 ratio. And the dog is wondering whether his master has any sense of this. And if the master does, it's because the dog casts the shadow of mortality on the master. So the thing kind of turns upside down the whole sense of who knows what about what.
Yeah. You've said before that you want very few people in your poems because you like the feeling of being alone with the reader. Having
Dogs don't count.
well, that was my question. I mean, do dogs count? I was thinking about we had Janet Fitch on, the novelist, and one of her pieces of writing advice was to treat children like they're animals, like little children. Don't think of it as a person. Think of it as like a
Uh,
squirrel or something that they're trying to contain. And there's sort of a I don't know. Do you feel like dogs have enough of that? Or is a dog a good writing companion?
well, they're amazing companions because they just want to be with you. They want to be with whoever is in charge of them, and that's a very serviceable definition of a friendship. A friendship being a relationship without purpose.
Hmm.
In a friendship, I don't want anything from the friend, and nor does he want anything from me. The only thing we want is to spend time together. That's the true friendship. That nothing has any value except just hanging out. And that's all the dog wants. I mean, the dog's mind, I'd say, is 75% you. And then there's a tennis ball in there too somewhere.
Yeah.
But you wake up at 3:30 in the morning, The dog wakes up, right? What's going on? What are we gonna do? Why are you up? Well, you tell the dog, we're going in the car. That's one word in the dog's vocabulary.
Hmm.
Dog wagging its tail off, saying, "Going in the car? Great." The dog will go anywhere with you at any hour, without question. So there's that instant sense of it's something more than companionship. It's just love in a way because you just want to be with so much want when you're in love, you just want to be with that other person constantly.
Does that feel? It strikes me that the relationship with a reader is sort of like that. It's that just wanting to be friends in that purest way, where they don't want anything out of you except for this moment where we're reading the poem and we get to be absorbed in that. I think. Um,
Well, I want something out of the reader. I want their attention.
yeah.
I want them to buy the book and read it. So it's not a pure friendship.
Well, let's hear another poem from the book, Billy.
A poem called The Guardian. Um, every poem is based on previous poems. Either it's conscious and direct, or you often have poems that are after. In fact, I have a poem that 5 points that's after, or sort of after Louise Glick. But here there are two poets who precede the writing of this third poem, and it's about a dog. It's called The Guardian. Giovanni Pascoli wrote about this in Italian before Heaney had a chance to translate it into English, so my pencil could wonder about it too. And noticing, that is, of the farm dogs who race barking after every passing cart or coach, nipping at the hooves in a billow of dust. I've seen such dogs run after a bicycle or a car, then stop outpaced, stand still for a moment to make sure the intruder has given up any thought of making trouble before running back to its post under a bush or in the shadow of a barn. Is it madness, this inability to distinguish between friend or foe? Or is it wise, if you can't tell one from the other, to run barking madly after everyone, simply to be on the safe side? Whatever the case, it's a kind of job, and you're free to do it all year round. And in return, this guardian of family and farm, roosters and hens, is rewarded with kibble and scraps and a porch to sleep under when it rains. And best of all, he is given a name that is his and his alone, enough to turn his head and bring him home. Well, so dogs have names and they respond to them. That's certainly one difference from, well, cats, for example, or goldfish. And that's part of the friend. That's how the friendship operates. If you say the dog's name, and a two-syllable name is always good, and the dog responds.
Um, you mentioned earlier about finding your voice, and everybody would love to hear, I think, more about that, about what it means to write a poem, like you said, Haney did with Digging, where nobody else could have written it. And it feels to me like that's kind of I don't know, a spiritual journey to find the way that you actually speak in like an authentic way that's only you and not all the other influences swirling around you. So how did you find your voice, and which poem maybe was the one that you realized you had it?
Well, I beg to differ. I don't think it's a spiritual discovery of an inner truth about yourself, or a discovery, a kind of authenticity about yourself. I think your voice has an external source. It doesn't bubble up from some inner something. It's in the poetry of other people. you find your voice by reading the poems of other people. And Ed Hirsch put that pretty succinctly when he said it's the paradox of the writing life, that originality comes through imitation.
Mhm.
So I found my voice by reading other poets. I'd been reading other poets for a long time, but finally I was reading the right combination of poets, the ones that were the good influences. Some poets, you love them, you appreciate them, you take them to heart, but they're not the right influences. But eventually, through extensive reading, I think, or reading when you're on the lookout, for you want to be influenced, you want to be susceptible. There's such pride in being a poet. And Tony Hoagland writes, is it Tony Hoagland who writes about the arrogance of poetry?
Mhm.
Just to write fill up a part of a page by taking on this authority. It's an arrogance, but I'm getting away from the subject, which is finding your voice. So I think you find it by imitating and being jealous of other poets, whether it's John Donne or Tony Hoagland or whoever, living or dead. And um, yeah, and I think you maybe not you, but one finds a way to combine them if you're lucky. So I learned a lot of things. I mean, I'll just isolate one thing that I learned intimacy from Whitman. There are lots of poems that are intimate, and you mentioned I don't have my poems are quite unpopulated by other people, except my parents or maybe a friend very occasionally. That's because I want to be alone with the reader, and huh, um, so I found a way to, so with Whitman, although he's the very expansive poet and it's the loggers of the Northwest and the longshoremen of New York and all this sense of the democratic vista of his scope. But at the same time, he can touch you on the shoulder and say, I'll wait for you up ahead, follow in my footsteps. And it's incredibly intimate. So I just learned maybe one thing from him and then something else from another poet. And it was also learning that you could be funny without being silly. And that was learned through reading New York School poets and West Coast poets like our friend Ron Kirchie and others, and particularly Philip Larkin, I think, was, and James Tate, William Matthews. Yeah, lots of poets who were using wit and humor and irony
Mhm.
to great effect, and not to just amuse, but to do all the poignant and serious things, the serious business of poetry.
Yeah. I should say if everybody's enjoying this conversation, please make sure you click the like button on YouTube, especially it helps a lot. Or if you're after the fact, the more like button clicks we get, Facebook, YouTube, whatnot, the more viewers we get, which is always nice. Also, if you have any questions for Billy, please leave them in the chat window, especially on YouTube. I'll pass some along as we go. It helps if you put all bold questions so I can see that it's a question, not a comment. Do you want to read another poem, Billy? What's up next?
Billy always wants to read another poem. Well, this is a poem where a dog just kind of comes in at the end. So, but I thought it belonged here. And it's really about the word. The title of the poem is Genius. And it really starts being about how that word is used. Genius was that what they called you in high school if you tripped on a shoelace in the hall and all your books went flying. Or if you walked into an open locker door, you would be known as Einstein, who imagined riding a streetcar into infinity. Later, genius became someone who could take a sliver of chalk and squire pi 100 places out beyond the decimal point, or a man painting on his back on a scaffold, or drawing a water wheel in a margin, or spinning out a little night music. But earlier this week on a wooded path, I thought the swans afloat on the reservoir were the true geniuses, the ones who had figured out how to fly, how to be both beautiful and brutal, and how to mate for life. 24 geniuses in all, for I numbered them as Yeats had done, deployed upon the calm crystalline surface. 48 if you count their white reflections, or an even 50 if you want to throw in me and the dog running up ahead, who were at least smart enough to be out there that morning, she sniffing the ground, me with my head up in the bright morning air. So there's just, I think walking is a good way to come up with stuff for poems. And walking, and one function of the dog is it gets you out of the house. Time for walkies.
Um, there's a question from Jennifer K. She says, "Do you believe as a poet that a poet does not know what the poem is about until the poem is finished, or can a poet have an idea and write to that idea?" And when you were on the poetry space last summer, you mentioned that you like a poem to begin in Kansas and end in Oz, which kind of maybe is something along these lines. But do you know where a poem is going, and how do you get to some surprise along the way?
Well, I kind of know where it's going when I start out. I don't know where it's going to end up. I don't know the destination. I don't think it's any fun. I would just wouldn't be interested in knowing that if I was going to have a last stanza that said in conclusion, we really shouldn't have too many guns in the house or something like that. I mean, that's the opposite of poetry. Um, I just start with a little something. I mean, genius was, I don't know, there's always a surprise for me. I wasn't sure. Um, it's really hard to think back on. I think when one composes poetry, I don't want to make it too mystical, but you're really in a space of wondering and thinking and figuring stuff out, and maybe going to the dictionary and seeing what word rhymes with another word in some other stanza, but that we're not really sure what we're really doing, but we come out doing it. So I don't have much of an intention when I write a poem. I might not. I know that what I begin writing about, like the word genius, has some potential momentum. I can see where genius can be used. I mentioned, I refer to Mozart and Michelangelo and someone else, um, Einstein, I guess. And then there's just, we have all these geniuses, and then the word genius comes down to everyday life. I thought the geniuses were these swans, because I'm all over the place with references to all these great thinkers. And then here we are with the dog and the swans. And then there's Yeats, who's counted the wild swans at Cool. He counted them. Uh, and so I'm doing what Yeats is doing. I don't know. And it's going to go point by point like that. But it's funny, everyone refers to that, attributes it to E.L. Doctorow about writing is driving at night. You can just see a little bit a ways ahead of you, but you keep going. And I was thinking the other day, it's an interesting metaphor for sure. But the lyric poem is so short that the driving at night often just becomes driving to the end of your driveway, and then and then reversing the car. I don't know. It's not like the novelist who's on a journey of months or years.
Hmm. Yeah. Do you ever find that you do know? Because I've talked to a lot of poets, and it does seem like some people write toward, like maybe halfway through the poem, you know how you're going to end it, and you're sort of writing toward that moment at some point. Do you ever do that, or is it always sort of a surprise right up until the end?
No, it's not. I mean, it's not a total surprise, but it's 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 a point where maybe the poet is not so surprised, but the poet realizes that the reader will be surprised. So it's a surprise. It works as a surprise, rather than the reader going or writer going, "Oh my God, I didn't see that coming." I don't. Yeah, and there's a point where the poem begins to end. You get that sense pretty clearly. You know that okay, we're like five stanzas in, and okay, we're just running out of gas here, and we probably two more stanzas, and now you've got to really kind of either work or open your head and get and let the some kind of nightingale fly into your head and come up with a great surprise ending. But again, I think I made a point there that I didn't think about before. I'm not that surprised, but I have a sense that the reader would be surprised. So it's a staged surprise.
Yeah, well, that's a
Very
good way to put
focused.
it. Yeah. Well, let's hear another poem, Billy.
You want another dog poem?
Yeah, whatever you want to
Uh,
share.
okay. Well, I thought I'd read a poem, older poem, and that you might not know. So this is a poem called "The List of Ancient Pastimes." Now, so right away, I have a sense of doing things. What did people, pre-literate people do? With dinosaurs in the background. And then we're going to slide into to something contemporary. The list of ancient pastimes first first must have come listening to the wind or regarding the movements of animals, then monitoring the stars, and sometime after that scrutinizing fire. But somewhere in there belongs watching the progress of a river from an elevated bank, studying the pooling near the edges, the way the smooth or rippled current divulges the secret contours of the unseen bottom, and the effects of skylight on the surface, all the elongated colors of the flow. Today it is my turn on the shore. I flatten the tall grass with my pacing. I lock my elbows and lean back, listening to the liquid rush. I scribble in a notebook, drink from a bottle of water. I find the perfect stone and fling it out into the middle. And sometimes I see something being carried down, a cracked off branch, a bucket on its side in the late afternoon, or as the dusk gets heavy, the head of Orpheus bobbing along, singing softly to the overhanging trees, or the body of Ophelia held up by her voluminous outspread clothes, the light so faint now it is difficult to tell if the red and yellow petals are embroidered into her gown or real, floating on the darkness of the water. We get pretty zoom effect there and there, but so it's a list of kind of an impersonal list about what did primitive people do before they looked at stars, weather came in without being alarmed, and so I was connecting with these primitive people and doing something that I thought was really basically human, which is looking at water, looking at the sky, which is the job description of being a poet, staring.
Um, let's see. I'll go to another question here. David Rathert says, "Do you fall in love with every poem, or are you able to recognize your best work fairly quickly? The poems that you end up publishing."
Well, here's my wastebasket. I'll just demonstrate that. That's where many of them go. I mean, if the poem, let's say it's not cooperating, it's not, there's no forward roll to it. It's not, doesn't seem to want to go anywhere. It's kind of flat and it's okay, but it's not really happening. I don't revise very much. If the poem is not working right away, at least just wanting to go roll forward, I basically give up on it and put it in the wastebasket, and I don't try to recover it from surgery. I just let it go, and I think it's a good idea. For me, it's a good idea just to get rid of it and go out and shoot some baskets or something, and maybe we'll Yeah, but also writing, often my experience, writing a failed poem, then maybe another failed poem, and it's just wastebasket material. That leads to another poem in the same sitting, a decent poem. And the decent poem would not have occurred if it weren't for the bad poem that put one in the mood to maybe improve. I don't know,
Yeah.
or just shove the imagination in that gear.
Yeah. One of the things I wanted to talk to you about, sort of a different topic, is I think about it as like Billy Collins envy. We've published over the years probably like 4 or 5 poems about how much poets wish they could be like Billy Collins as a poet. We have one that's like all dressed in green, where somebody tries to sit in the front row and absorb your aura or something. And then I was thinking too, we have when we had you on, or we announced you're going to be on, a few people mentioned to me bringing you up in creative writing programs as your favorite poet. I think it was Michael Mark, maybe I'm thinking of, the poet of one of our Rattle Chapbook Prize winners. But when somebody went around the room and said, like, who's your favorite poet, when he entered an MFA program for the first time, he said Billy Collins. And they said, no, not Billy Collins. And it's like, there's this whole, people actually like to read your poems, which makes there's sort of a resistance to that, which is mixed with an envy, which is mixed with so much. And I always wondered how you feel about that, and how you feel about there's sort of this like academic world that lives over here, and sort of we kind of don't really like them at Rattle anyway. And then there's like the Billy Collins world of poetry. But how do you feel about that split?
Well, it's kind of a love-hate thing. I mean, I love them and they hate me, or I don't know. I have an example of that. When I was at spent just a visiting writer, a very short thing at University of Houston. Marie Howe was there, dear friend of mine. I think she must have invited me. But I was talking to a group of graduate students. Houston is one of the, I think, first universities, me fact checked me, but the first where you could get an actual PhD in your own writing. Um, that's more common, but there are some graduate students who seem to be not Billy Collins fans, or not even Billy Collins liking Billy Collins. But one of them said, we find your poetry to be under conceptualized. And I said, well, why don't you just problematize it and then have some fun with it? No, I don't know. I don't know. I'm not, that was a rare occasion where I actually hear someone getting antsy or critical. Um, I don't know. I don't think about it really. Not just a place in my head for that, but
Yeah.
it's a very writing poems is of extremely self-entertaining pleasure, and whether the content is misery, which is usually not the case in my poems. I pretended to be miserable when I was a young teenage writer. I was a very happy kid, happy only child, but I knew that poets were miserable. So if I had a shot at this, I better get miserable quick. Uh, you can pretend to be miserable in poetry. It's pretty easy.
Well, where do you think, because we don't have a lot of poetry that is enjoyable and entertaining, I mean, so much, there is that academic sort of high horse that people live on in the ivory tower, where, and the majority of books sold or sold to college students who are sort of taught their poetry books, and writing that ship and sort of correcting course where there are more people reading. You said there are plenty of writers of poetry, but not enough readers. And how do you feel that's going over time? Is that getting worse? And how would we make it better for poetry as an art form, that we have more people reading us?
Well, everything's getting worse. Just look around. And I don't know, Jim. I think that to me that sounds like a dated vision of. I don't think anyone's concerned about the ivory tower anymore. I think that tower has been kind of toppled. If there are And I don't think I suppose there are academic poets. I don't know where they're published. I don't know where to read them. Mostly they're poets that are products of workshops.
Hmm.
Certainly a workshop kind of poem, but I don't think there's that kind of, Wallace Stevens, T.S. Eliot kind of academic type poetry that is any threat. Well, it's like AM and FM, or it's like, jazz and rock and roll. You can have both if you find pleasure in both of them. But we're pleasure-seeking animals. Wordsworth's preface to lyrical ballads mentions the word pleasure over 50 times. It's about pleasure. So my pleasure is to read certain poets that entertain me and make sense and are poignant. And my pleasure is not to read poems that are terribly dense and for no apparent reason. Glenn Maxwell, in his lovely book about poems, distinguishes between mist and fog. Mist in a poem is good mystery. Mist is part of the mystery of life. Fog is just in your face impenetrability, which is bad, bad poetry weather. So I think we're fine. I think
Yeah.
poetry will, but who knows? If I knew the future, I'd be at the racetrack every day.
Yeah, well, that's great. Yeah, I like the insight into that. Another thing I wanted to talk about is we do try to champion haiku here at Rattle. We had a whole haiku issue. We have a Hyben issue not too long ago, and you write haiku. You have a whole chapbook of haiku. You said in the past that writing it haiku is sort of like playing scales, and I wonder if you still write haiku, and what got you into writing haiku in the first place.
I still do. I think I wrote one the other day that have. I like writing short poems, and often if if they kind of maybe they come out to be about 17 syllables, or if they're not, I try to tidy them up so it's an actual haiku. Yeah, I have a little book called "She Was Just 17," which is a book of haiku. I just think it's very good for practice for poets. If they're writing what's badly called free verse, and they need some instruction about form and not writing sonnets particularly, but just knowing that the poem you're creating wants to have a form, or at least a potential reader out there wants to read a poem that has form. If you have no training in poetry and you don't care about form, well, that's a whole other subspecies of activity that I don't really care about or think about. But so it's 5 7 5, let's say, uh, 5 syllables, seven, then five. If you try to write a haiku, let alone having some kind of Zen insight, just write a haiku about some pasta you had for dinner. Um, the haiku is going to talk back to you and say, "Hey, idiot, that was 6 syllables. Can you freaking count?" The haiku is going to talk back to you and say, "No, you can't do this. You have to do it my way." And that puts you in a really good position to listen to your poem. It might not have this tight form, but your poem also wants to be. Mary Oliver said, "Our poem should at least be tidy." Don't you love that? Like just like make the bed in the morning, don't be a slob with your poems. Be tidy. Find some pleasure in the making of the poem. And poems are made of lines and stanzas, like hammers and nails or whatever. But I don't know. Maybe I drifted from the question there.
No, that's great. Let's do two more poems, and then we'll do like a little couple of quick questions in the between.
Okay. Let's see. Let me come back to another one in the 5 points, which at least seems still fresh to me. So this is called The Mint, Mint, and it is sort of, I say sort of after Louise Glick. After, she helped start the poem anyway. The Mint. From the leeward side of this boat where I have been leaning on a wooden railing for some time, I throw my hat into the water. What is the underlying meaning of this? In the Balkans, It would mean that my sweetheart has finally accepted me. In Spain, that she has definitely not. In Morocco, that a visitor will arrive soon. But I am an American from the hubcaps up, so it means I no longer need my hat. Or maybe I never liked my hat, and it has taken a boat ride on the Gulf of Mexico for me to see that. But look, now I am following my hat into the water, head first. This cannot mean that I am having second thoughts about my late hat, which is now some nautical miles behind me. My abrupt diving could only indicate that my sweetie is beyond my grasp. Yet, by any standard of measurement, she is unworthy of the comedy of my love. Such is my thinking in these final moments as I frolic on the bubbly surface before being pulled under the powerful wake, before being pulled under by the powerful wake, exactly like Hart Crane, whose father is credited with inventing the lifesaver, which may come as news to some of you who have chosen to attend this morning's session. So that's little factoid is true.
Well, that's interesting. Really cool. So, new poem from 5 Points again. One of the magazines Billy recommends. Here's a question from Nate Jacob. He says, "Would you rather write a great poem at this point in life or play a great round of golf?" Obviously, there's pleasure in
Oh,
both.
golf definitely, um, or just be able to play the piano a little better. Yeah, I don't think I don't think I think greatness is out of my reach. I don't think I'm improving at all, and I don't think I don't have any desire to develop as an artist. I'm pretty content with writing poem after poem, if I can, that are okay, A minus anyway. So no, yeah, I go back and read, um, Keats's odes, and I'm reading the prelude now, at least the good parts of it by Wordsworth, and that's absolutely that's my sense of iambic greatness right there.
Yeah.
But
Uh,
fun question.
that is. And I don't know. I mean, we definitely beg to differ about there not being great poems. There's so many. And I don't know. When you look back at your career, is there one poem or book that you're most proud of?
Um, well, I mean, to get serious, I think it was the poem called "The Names" that I was asked to write by Congress, and I read that before Congress on the first anniversary of 9/11 at a joint session of Congress. That was the kind of biggest poem I've written to the most daunting audience. But I think right around in my mid 30s, I sort of had a string of poems, and one of them was questions about angels. And it was that one. And if there was a couple others with it, that I thought, like Heaney thought with digging, I thought no one else could have written that but me. And that was not a way of flattering myself. It's just that I thought I'd found something that I hadn't heard before in poetry, something that was a little different anyway. No, I wouldn't even say original, but just distinguishable from other poems.
Hmm. Yeah. Well, I don't want to keep you too long. It's getting late.
You
Do you
caught
want to?
up with me.
I did. Yeah. Do you want to close out with one last poem?
Okay. Let's see. I had one here. Um, this is from oh, this is sort of advice to writers. It's a poem about, that you should always have a pencil and a pen with yours and some paper to write on because you never know. And I remember walking in New York City once, and I came up with some little thing I wanted to write down. I didn't have a pencil or a piece of paper, so I went into a bank and I went over to the desk there where they had, deposit slips and a pen on a chain, and I wrote it there with under the scrutiny of the guard. So this is called Lines Lost Among Trees, Forgotten Lines. These are not the lines that came to me while walking in the woods with no pen and nothing to write on anyway. They are gone forever, a handful of coins dropped through the grate of memory, along with the ingenious mnemonic I devised to hold them in place, all gone and forgotten before I had returned to the clearing of lawn in the back of our quiet house with its jars jammed with pens, notebooks, reams of black paper, its desk and soft lamp, its table, no light from the windows. So this is my elegy for them, those 6 or 8 exhalations, the braided rope of the syntax, the jazz of the timing, and the little insight at the end, wagging like the short tail of a perfectly obedient spaniel sitting by the door. This is my envoy to nothing, where I say, go, little poem, not out into the world of strangers' eyes, but off to some airy limbo, home to lost epics, unremembered names, and fugitive dreams, just such as the one I had last night, which, like a fantastic city in pencil, erased itself in the bright morning air, just as I was waking up. So I had to dream about a city in pencil.
Yeah, well, great poem to end on, Billy. That was Lines Lost Among Trees from Sailing Around, Alone Around the Room.
Picnic Lightning. Okay.
Okay, from Picnic Lightning. There you go. Never mind. Well, thanks so much for being here, Billy. It's been really great talking to you and sharing your work, which we all, I think all our viewers and audience just loves reading you and getting to have that intimate experience of entering one of your poems and sitting down with you. And it's great sitting down tonight to talk. I appreciate it.
Great. Thanks, Tim. And thanks for all the good work you do for poetry. And I hope you keep the broadcast, the magazine, the whole shebang going.
Yeah, well, we definitely are. We're in it for the long haul. And so I hope you can come back sometime again too, Billy. Thanks so much.
All right. Good night. Thanks.
Good night. Yeah, so that was Billy Collins. Once again, you can find his new book, Dog Show, which is right here from Penguin. That would be from penguinrandomhouse.com. Find it there, of course, everywhere books, including we were in, Katie and I went to London, and there was a copy of the UK version there in a bookstore that we stumbled across. So pretty much anywhere you want to go, you can find a copy of Dog Show. Pick that up. If you love Billy Collins, of course, give it to a friend who likes dogs and turn them on to poetry too. And then give them a copy of Rattle while you're at it. Why not? But anyway, that was a wonderful episode. Thanks so much. We're going to go to prompt lines now. And now we're going to do it differently. It's the invited prompt lines. And so if you submitted your poems by Sunday night at midnight to be considered every week, Katie is going to pick a number of poets to fit in. So we're trying to keep condensing this down over time, and this is the best way to do it at this point. The prompt for this week was to write a poem that describes the taste of a surprising food as creatively as possible. If you had a poem like that, submit it to our prompt lines, and you can be invited up onto the show. So let's see. We're going to take a quick break now and go to our prompt line. So sit tight. We'll be right back with a whole lot more poetry. And we're back. Thanks for your patience. I'm here with our creative editor, prompt lines editor, and my wife, Katie Dozier.
The cook of tonight's dinner.
The cook of tonight's dinner. Thanks so much for doing that too, Katie.
I loved getting to hear that conversation, and I love the concept of the mist versus the fog in particular. And I had to say, so you started off the episode, and we got to see the fancy version of Dog Show, and I have a very prized possession I wanted to show, which is a letterpress. I just pulled it upside down. That was very classy. This is Billy Collins' book of haiku that he did in conjunction with Lee Gerga at Modern Haiku Press. And I wanted to show it to also say that I do disagree with Billy Collins about the syllabic counting thing, but a big fan of his stuff, and it's fun to read anyway. But this is a beautiful book too.
Yeah. Well, we do disagree with that, but we published this haiku in the Japanese Forums issue, even though we disagree with that counting syllables.
Count.
But still.
But anyway, it's really cool because the point is Billy Collins was in Modern Haiku, which is one of my favorite magazines and everything, and had a correspondence with Lee Gerga, which we know because his archive is in the Harry Ransom Center in Austin, which was super cool to see. And they also have the original version of the names that Billy Collins read from too. So some really cool stuff there if you're a big Billy Collins fan.
Yeah, well, definitely.
Yeah.
All right. So this is the new invited prompt lines.
Yeah, so many things to be excited about tonight.
There are. And you mentioned it, we're loving like the panel of people that we get to talk to because there's a bunch of new faces, which is one of the goals. We also just don't have the restrictions that we did before because you can pick longer poems, have varieties of, just different takes on the topic.
Right.
All sorts of ways we can make the reading section of the prompt lines section better.
In case we need back up a little bit and talk about the change that we made. So this is the first night of the invited prompt lines. And everyone that you're going to see read here tonight submitted their poems by last night. And then I picked out a group of poems to read. I wanted so many people to read. I might have overdone a little bit.
We're still figuring out.
But we're still figuring it out. So, but anyway, so these are curated. These are poems that, I enjoyed reading and I thought had different reasons why I thought it'd be exciting to look at. And I'm really looking for diversity in poets and poems and everything for what we share and put together for this. And so I'm excited about this series.
Yeah, well, definitely. So we're going to start out, though. First, we're going to go with our own prompt poems.
Oh, right. I still have a poem, too.
But what if you don't pick me?
What? Oh, that's going to be awkward, guys.
I know. Well, I think you might have if you read my poem. You might not.
Might not. I was like, you might have. I was like, okay, we're getting caught.
But we'll see. Okay.
All right.
But so the prompt, once again, let's pull this up. The prompt this week was where'd it go? It's way down here. Hang on.
Okay.
Was to write a poem that describes a taste of a surprising food as creatively as possible.
Okay.
So, and you came out with a real banger here. Katie,
thank you.
I gotta say, I read this one ahead of time, and wow, that's good.
Well, thanks. I was very influenced, as I tend to be, by whatever we've talked about most recently on the poetry space, and that turned out to be Titles with Dante DiStefano, which was a really cool episode if you missed it. But it's funny because I would have normally just gone with a more simple title here. I would have definitely just called it Jawbreaker, but this was the line that came to me while I was in the bath, and I finally called back on David Kirby from my undergrad days. He said, write every bit down. And I pulled out my phone and risked dropping it in the bath.
Whoa, you wrote this on the phone.
Oh, just the title. I didn't write the whole. This would be so hard. Anyway, it's a long poem for me. It's almost a page.
Okay, well, let's hear it.
All right. Life is a jawbreaker of indeterminate size. In a kiosk beside the pier, where spring breakers had T-shirts spray painted with their name to say, Cocoa Beach, I was here, sat big jars of neon candy teetering on the only eye-level shelf. Edible Legos, warheads, atomic fireballs, and baseball-sized jawbreakers costing $8 whole. I told myself I didn't want one, even though the pops of glitter on the white hinted at the nested galaxies inside. But the marionette strings of want began to pull after Kay brought one in a brown bag for lunch. In 30 minutes, she moved from the opening act of white to yellow to an orange globe flecked with stars. Her tongue settled on the surface of Mars. Right as the bell rang, she slipped the world inside my rinsed-out bag of Doritos. The first day after I'd known a friend who died, I skipped school. Felt the sun slap my cheeks on repeat. Even the wind wanted me to fall down, and when I hazarded a toe into the Atlantic, I was sure it was the sea that was the one making rings around me. I guess the worker at that stand must have heard what happened. She gushed out onto the sand, asked if she could call my parents, and thrust out a brown sack with a new jawbreaker inside. It tasted like nothing but weight. My tongue was pinned down. My mouth was full of color changes that were too heavy to hold. But the trick, I remember, she said, smiling, is to try.
Yeah, so great turn and ending in that poem, Katie. It sneaks up on you, then hits you really hard. Yeah,
Thanks.
Yeah, great stuff.
Thanks.
Yes, that was Katie's poem. Life is a jawbreaker of indeterminate size, and mine is so. Mine was one of those ones. You'll recognize the title. We had frog legs at this hot pot restaurant, and it was one of those poems where, like, the research that I was doing, I was kind of like looking up, like, where do those frogs' legs come from? That was like so much fun, but then I was like, how do I turn this into a poem? So like,
we need a term for that in poetry. Like,
yeah, it was one
the
of those,
Wikipedia.
It was, yeah.
Pull something.
Yeah. Like, where would those have actually come from?
Yeah.
Anyway, here we go. This is what I came up with anyway. This is frog legs. Almost 500 million years since a lungfish wriggled through the tidal slop, the proto-lobes of its fins grappling against the rocks and the weeds as it fled some demon of the deep. How frightened it must have been, its soft spine straining at the mass of a body unbuoyed by water. It lived in the scrim between worlds, that boundary thin as paper. But its need was the same need as the paddy frog that it bore, hopping now through the rice fields of Indonesia. The same need as the farmer lifting his lantern at the orbs of their eyes as he draws them to the net. The same need as our children dipping a pair of legs into a hot pot of broth that froths in a sea until its meat falls off thin bones like the tail that we dropped. And that's exactly what it tastes like. Mm-hmm. There you go. And frog legs. It is.
I feel almost bad I gave them so little thought as I joyfully ate them at the hot pot restaurant. It's interesting.
They do. They taste a little weird, those.
I didn't think it tasted that weird.
Well, it tastes like chicken who lived in the ocean or something. That's what I thought.
I picture a chicken in like a scuba diving outfit.
Kind of squishy chicken.
Oh, yeah. Because we cooked
but I
the
never
hell out
had
of it.
Yeah, I guess maybe that's
we
true.
boiled it for like 20 minutes.
We did. But anyway, that was my first frog leg. So very fun.
All right. Well, now we're ready to get into the invited prompt lines, and we're going to start out by going to our community host, Dick Westheimer.
Let's see if I can find him on the list. Oh, there he is.
There
Hey,
he is.
Dick.
Hi, Dick.
Already unmuted. Tim, I think that was an essay.
Yeah, well, I was kind of
poem.
thinking in that direction, so thanks for saying that. Yeah.
Yeah, good point.
Yeah.
That is.
It-
So, Dick, do you want to
felt
start
like
out telling everyone about the first community reading that is going to be next Sunday?
Yes. Is it next? Oh, my goodness. Next Sunday, which I believe is the 25th at
Yes.
7 p.m., we'll have a community reading, which includes folks here, anybody who has a prompt poem that they haven't had the opportunity to read on Prompt Lines, or one that they have read and have just want to read again. And we will have a co-host, Lexi Pell, who will join us and read a poem, one of her favorite poems from the Rattle back catalog, and talk about what she loves about that poem and co-host with me. And I'm just really looking forward to it. I've had a lot of positive response from folks, as you predicted, Katie. And the other thing that has happened is we've had a lot of folks join the Rattlecast Prompt Facebook group in the past week, and a lot of folks responding to other people's poems, people asking for feedback, and it's been really, really rewarding. And I encourage folks to join that group. Make sure when you do apply to join it that you answer the questions so we know that you're for real.
Yeah.
But it's been the activity on the Facebook page has been really heartening. A lot of great comments on people's poems, and people courageous enough to criticize other folks' poems who ask for that.
Yeah, definitely. I have to say, too, when I have just a few spare minutes in between mom task or whatever's going on during the day, and I look at the Facebook, it's Rattlecast prompts for everybody that is looking to joins, and there's such cool posts on there that really are so heartening. People like being openly asking for feedback about their poems, and people giving warm, courageously good feedback. And I find it really inspiring, and so many new members. So it's really great. So I'm can't wait to hear about the community reading. I know it's going to go great, and we really appreciate you doing it, Dick. So thank you.
Well, I'm increasingly looking, I was a little trepidation before taking it on, but I'm really looking forward to it and hearing from folks and having the community that doesn't have you two scary people on
it. Well, you also wrote a great poem this week, so we definitely need to hear that as well.
Okay, it is a high bun for all of you high bun fans out there. It's called Heart Burn. When my wife dipped a fresh from the oven slice of my sourdough rye into olive oil she'd brought from Tuscany, she gasped and said it was better than orgasm. And I, of course, was disappointed that one of these was preferred to the other. So the next day, when she served me, still warm off the spatula, a molasses ginger cookie, I set to it as I would a freshly presented earlobe or bared neck. Instead saying anything, and instead conjured a word for the 6-8-time tarantella of flavors, molasses and ginger and cardamom, and I thought maybe all this making and taking is better than making love. The kneading, the breast of the ripening dough, the starter that smells like sex, the ginger cookies softly melting fire, the dance we dance when we dance, in 6-8 time no less, on the mornings when the sun warms the slow oven of our room and we both wake fermented from sleep. Kitchen remodeling with benefits.
Well, great twist there at the end, Dick. That was a good use of the haiku turn.
This one left me excited
muted,
to
Timothy
cook.
Green.
We're muted.
Oh, just for.
I was saying that this one left me very excited to make dinner.
Okay, good. I appreciate it. Well, thank you all so much, and I really look forward to this curated reading.
Thanks, Dick.
Yeah, definitely. It's going to be a great addition to all the stuff we do. So thanks so much for volunteering to do it.
Thanks. Bye.
Yeah,
Bye.
Yeah, it was Dick Westheimer, our community host and friend of Rattle all the time. Let's see. Let's go next to.
So there's still the drama of not knowing who's being called next. We decided to leave that in. I personally would have been annoyed if I was on the side of the camera. A lot of people said they liked that. So,
do you want to go to Christiana Doucette?
Let's go to Christiana Doucette.
Let's go to Christiana Doucette.
Yes.
Hello.
Hi.
Hey, Christiana. Great to see you.
Good to see you too. So, this poem that I sent you this week was part of my evil plan to lure you to Greenville, South Carolina, so that I can meet you guys in person someday. And so, I wrote about the milkshakes that are called freak shakes at Grill Marks downtown. And I included some pictures. They're not my pictures. They're from their social media. But just so that you can see how amazing some of the things here are and why you should come and taste these and write your own poems about them.
Oh, wow.
This is a really convincing pitch. Like, really convincing.
Well,
Yes.
definitely Lizzie would want to go.
This isn't the only
Sure.
good food here. There's a lot of good food here. So,
Wow.
so this is The Contortionist, and it's written in Anglo-Saxon strong stress. The chefs shoved a chocolate shell halfway down the handle of the heavy stein. A brownie balances like an acrobat, tipping its top hat to the table. The scoop of vanilla sits on those steady shoulders, frilly creme fouettée floating like smoke from a stuntman's circus cannon. Under the aerialist, a waterfall of muddy malt chocolate melts into the big ring below. The burlesque dairy dream is drenched in chocolate, daring diners to drop dinner, and I've already decided on it. I'm taking that ticket. Pass me the platter, please.
That's great descriptions.
Yeah.
Definitely. And I always love the illiterate verse coming in.
Yeah, that was really fun. Yeah, thanks so much.
Definitely.
Yeah. Thank you so much.
Pictures is a bonus. Yeah. Thanks so much, Christiana.
Great.
Let's go next to, let's see. How about Monica Garg?
Great.
Well, hello
everyone. It's been a while.
Yes,
Thank
it
you.
has.
Yeah,
Great.
great to see you.
Yeah,
Yeah, so this is one of the
definitely.
goals of the prompt lines this way is that we bring back people, that haven't been able to make it. You can make a special occasion of it when you're
Yeah.
called up. And
Yeah.
well, very cool to have you, Monica. It's great to see you again.
Yeah, so I had a total different spin on the prompt. I went to a classical music recently, and I was just really moved by all the emotions that were coursing on the musicians' faces. I got tickets like in the front row, so I was able to see everything.
Oh, that's
And
great.
then, yeah, and then the hunger that the poem talks about is more for connection and spirituality, if you want. So this is called Eating the Cello. I dig my teeth into the neck, sucking the syrup out of its nooks. The cello moans in silken tones. Hidden in the golden curtains, an owl. A woman takes her night off, gets up on the stage, and dances. Someone in the back row claps ahead of time. The cellist doesn't seem to mind, too absorbed to get his tie out of the fingerboard, which he knows drives Haydn nuts. The woman twirls and swirls. I lick the strings, careful not to interfere with his beautiful hand, which for a millisecond helps a few black curls out of his face. Yet the bow knows where to go. How I wish to eat the bow. Nibble on the F-hole instead. The woman wipes the cellist's forehead with a ferret. I'm still hungry. The curtains quiver. The owl spreads its wings, lands on the cellist's shoulder. I can't eat an owl. I'm a vegetarian.
Well, fun as I'm definitely used to your poems being, Monica. Thanks for sharing.
Yeah, we're actually going to the orchestra next month, and I know I'm just going to be staring at that cello. Can't go hungry, I guess. That could be dangerous. Thanks so much, Monica. Good to see you.
Yeah, thanks, Monica. Yes, that was Monica Garg with Eating the Cello. Let's go next to Deb T.
Hello, everybody.
Hi, Deb.
Hey, Deb. Great to see you again. Yeah.
Yeah, it's been a while, and I'm really happy with your new format. I caught it at the end of Critique of the Week and thought, okay, I don't really know how to write about food, but I thought if I get invited, then I'll be less nervous about reading a poem. So
Yay!
Yeah, well, that was like literally the goal. That's what we talked
Yeah,
about.
exactly.
So glad
happy
it's
to
working.
see that.
Yeah.
And
or I also kind of thought I want to see if you guys like it, and if you like it, then it wouldn't be fair to try out and just say, "Oh, thanks that you liked it," and then not actually be brave enough to read it.
well, you went somewhere really creative with this, so I'm excited for you to share it.
Well, yeah. Okay. Yeah, I don't really know how to write about food, so I thought I took unusual food in a different direction.
Yeah.
Ouroboros. And I fiddled with it while I was hiking today, so it's a little different than what I sent you, but pretty much the same. Ouroboros. Some like the taste of pennies. Sylvia sucks on quarters. 50 cents of happiness in her mouth. Her fourth grade teacher's voice is a gunshot, demanding to know what she's eating. Sylvie replies, nothing. Waits till the teacher turns her back, spits out 2 slick coins and hides them in her desk, where she keeps eyeing them, her tongue itching for what it lacks. Sylvie runs, trips, then sits on the blacktop, laps blood as it escapes from her scraped knee, tongue down, eyes up, vigilant to be certain nobody will see. Sylvie is 17. First taste of beer, first taste of semen. She spurns beer, prefers semen. The more she makes out with her beer-loving boyfriend, the more she develops a thirst for the beer that coats his tongue and lips. It's Miller time. Sylvie is a silver-haired crone. She devours memoirs, greedily licks her fingers, her whole hand, savoring the specific tang of her body's own salt, then sighs, closes her eyes, and dozes right where she sits.
Well, I think that you really took us to a ton of different tastes here. Which I thought was very interesting too. And I love the plain speaking, the Sylvie is this and everything. You know, it's funny because it had like Run Pat Run type vibes, but about a very non-children's subject. So I like the contrast of that too. So thanks so much for writing it, Deb.
Oh, thanks for inviting me.
Yeah, very cool. Yeah, thanks so much for coming on, Deb. Yeah, that was Deborah Tannenbaum with Ouroboros. Let's go next to Amanda Harris.
Hey guys, so I had a really different take on this one. I decided to talk about a very poorly understood mental illness called pica. So, for those who don't really know what pica is, it's when you crave things that are not food. So, this poem is called Cement. Cells here do not exist. That is the appeal of the thing. Habit says saline builds steadily, as saliva builds when the mouth looks at something that once lived. If it were alive, it would be sentient. If it were alive, it would fester in the detritus of the brain like regret or maybe guilt. Guilt is when someone should feel what someone should feel when licked. If I were guilty, my wax wings, which I often cherish and brag about, would melt. Wax is brainless. Brainless things enjoyed moderately are treats.
Amanda, I think we need a poetic term for the way that you charge through poems, taking a piece of the last sentence into the next, because it's always like you feel the locomotion as you're going through, even in a poem about cement.
Thank you.
Thanks, Amanda.
Yeah, thanks, Amanda. That was Amanda Harris with Cement. Next, let's go to Taylor Haman-Los.
Hello, thanks so much for having me tonight.
Hi, Taylor.
Yeah,
it is
pleasure.
so nice to see you. I love getting to read your work over on X and everything, and it's so fun to have you on here. And you write such great poems, so getting you to share one here is exciting.
Well, I'm excited to be here. So, when I first saw the prompt for this week, my brain got stuck on blackberries, and I went, well, I can't write a poem about blackberries. That's so boring. Everybody's written about blackberries. And then I don't remember where I saw it, but I came across that nursery rhyme that says 4 and 20 blackbirds baked in a pie, and I was like, what if the blackberries were blackbirds? And went from there.
Great.
So, here we go. Eating blackbirds at midnight. They taste like the sky, thick, dark, charred where the sun lingered too long on their wings. I've never tucked them under crust, but I still eat them whole. I like the choke of feathers in my throat. I like the squish and slide of their eyes. I like the way the birds' voices crowd my stomach when a stranger who can't sleep walks by. So I say, come here, press your ear to me, and hear this lovely little song.
Well, I love the idea of not taking anything for granted and trying to see things in different ways than we've ever imagined them before. I mean, like how Billy Collins brought Whitman into the discussion. I always think of Whitman talking about what is the grass and Song of Myself and everything. So I think this is that kind of curiosity that's evident in your poems.
Well, thank you so much.
Thanks. Great to see you.
Yeah, thanks so much, Taylor.
Yeah, you
great
too.
always great to have new faces. It's really, this is
Yeah.
working out so great. I got to say it over and over again, but it's true. A variety of poems,
Yeah.
different lengths and people. It's really wonderful.
And
Okay.
I have the feeling of like meeting celebrities because I've read a lot of poems by these people. So I'm like kind of starstruck. Alexander is definitely one of those people too. I've read a lot of poems from him already this month.
Wow.
So,
Well, let's go to
yeah.
Alexander B then.
Yeah.
Oh, thank you. Well, thank you for having me. So this poem is called Grass. The reason why I sort of gravitated toward a person eating grass is because I've been working on a project related to Sokushinbutsu, which is the Japanese process of self-mummification. And this involves eating bark and grass for 1,000 days. So, grass. He began with the sweetest blades, the ones growing near water. No hunger in it at first, only boredom, the way a kid puts everything in his mouth. Then it became intent. He knelt in the field at dawn when the grass was still wet, dew-volt, salt-rimed, every blade a tongue tasting him back. His wife left bread on a plate. the rye with seeds like eyes. It hardened to stone, then to soil, what the ants understood. By autumn, his teeth were wearing down. By winter, his jaw learned the slow churn of a ruminant, the rearticulation of bone, as if the grass were training his body toward what it means to hunger for nothing. Spring arrived. The grass arrived. He had become something the grass could recognize. The cows no longer startled when he grazed beside them. One morning, a doe fed from his palm. When they found him, still, so thin, the grass had grown into him, where his eyes had been, two green sprouts, phototropic, leaning into sun. He stopped becoming human the way one stops holding one's breath, relief. Now that patch refuses mowing, thicker, hungrier. The botanists took samples. They found no word for the piece that green there. The grass can name what they cannot. It will not give it back.
Yeah, well, very cool poem. Quite a journey there.
Thanks.
And another answer to what is the grass. Well, thanks so much for coming on, Alexander. It's great to see you.
Yeah, thank you.
It was Alexander Bilzerian with Grass. Next, let's go to Jared Campbell.
Hello.
Hey, Jared.
Hey, Jared, great to see you.
Hey, how you doing?
Good.
I have to say, if I'm allowed to out you as having written multiple prompt poems this week too, is that acceptable?
I did, yeah. As
Yeah,
you
you did.
gotta take a few shots at the target.
I love that. I think it's great.
It
That's
hits.
I'm hoping to
Yeah.
inspire that too, of everybody like having crazy goals. Like I'm going to write 2 this week.
Yep. So I did roasted bone marrow with parsley salad. Get a loaf of crusty bread that reminds you of the childhood you never had, a bunch of flat leaf parsley, 2 small shallots, capers, and 3 or 4 pounds of marrow bones cut crosswise. Stand the marrow bones upright in a roasting pan. Put them in an oven as hot as shame for as long as it takes to do a crossword puzzle. Slice the shallots so thinly that you can see the memory of your first heartbreak through them. Chop the parsley, including the stems. They should smell like the modulations in a Schubert song. Combine the shallots and parsley in a bowl. Add 2 teaspoons of capers and some olive oil. Choose the most analytic of your lemons and zest it. Lemon zest isn't in the recipe, but what's the point of living if you throw away your lemon zest? Squeeze enough to remember the distinction between sense and reference, then add the lemon juice and zest to the parsley and stir. Check on your marrow bones. They should smell like Christmas Eve in 2005. If the marrow turns clear and liquid, you cooked it too long. It should have the consistency of that thing in linear algebra that you never understood how to do. Toast the bread until it has the texture of banter. Serve. Spread the marrow on toast and garnish with coarse salt. Wonder at how a thing can be so different from the sum of its parts. Now the marrow toast tastes like Mahler's Eighth, and the parsley salad like Wallace Stevens on a summer afternoon. Ask your wife what it tastes like. Prepare to be surprised.
So Jared, in this, I really enjoy that mix of the complete literal and then the conceptual. And then also too, it felt like kind of, I have weird internal monologues while I cook. And this poem really helped me realize that. And then also I try to be a perfectionist to the extent that I'm like, okay, I should pick the lemon that's actually, it has the best zest, but it's not the juiciest because I'm making that. And so it's like absolutely crazy, like the way you get inside your head when you're cooking and focusing on it. So I enjoyed it.
Different lemons are good for different purposes.
Yes.
But that's exactly right. That food is the most literal thing, right? It's just literally indivisibly enjoyable, but it's also got so many associations and memories and things associated with it. Just there's so much that's that food refers to that's outside of food.
Yeah, that's great.
Very cool. Well said. Yeah, thanks so much, Jared.
All right, thank you.
Yep, that was Jared Campbell with roasted bone marrow with parsley salad. All right. Next, let's go to Sean Evaningo Sanders.
Well, hello.
Hi,
Sean,
Sean.
great
What
to
a
see you.
night. I mean, I'm loving the new format. I love Billy Collins, obviously. Big fan. Thank you, Katie, for inviting me. And thank you, Dick Westheimer, for stepping up to host the community reading. I can't wait for that.
Yeah.
This has
Yeah.
been great tonight.
Oh, good. That's great. Well, I think that everybody needed a poem involving you and mango because of the story that you relayed with our guest Jen last week, where you all were talking about mango and your
Gotta keep it
husband brought
going.
you
Keep
mango.
the mango going.
So we needed this side of mango.
Okay. Well, here it is. A year older with a side of mango. When he tells me he wants to make rice cakes, I have to confess, I am less than enthusiastic. I picture apple cinnamon puffed up wafers from my fat-free diet days, a guilt-free snack after jazzercise so my ass wouldn't look too big in my neon thong and shiny silver tights. I was wrong. Not only about wearing those silver tights, but about the breakfast he was so excited to cook for me. I descend the staircase in a waft of fresh brewed Colombian, ready to receive a cup of I love you. We exchange what we remember from our dreams. Ding! He scoops out the rice to let it cool down. I watch him massage the rice into eggs, their yolks as orange as the mandarins on our kitchen table. He adds a dash of Himalayan salt, a splash of Madagascar vanilla. Butter sizzles on the griddle, waiting for a scoop of rice scoop he'll smush out like a pancake. This ain't no store-bought styrofoam snack. He plates a golden stack, drizzles it with maple syrup hand-tapped by our friend in Vermont. And on the side, fresh sliced mango, just tart enough to pinch the back of my jaw when the fruit slivers past my tongue. Yum. This, just one of 1,000 ways he makes me feel loved. How he convinces me I'm worthy enough to celebrate.
Oh, sweet poem. Yeah.
So sweet. Yeah, I love it. And I also learned, didn't know rice cakes could be good either. So that's exciting too.
I was shocked when he mentioned it. I was like, really? Okay.
I think he's going to have to post the recipe now. You know, the full thing. We can all be making it.
Well, it's kind of in here.
That's true. It's pretty close. We have to make sure to massage. Well, this was great. Thanks so much, Sean.
Thanks, Sean.
Thanks so much.
Sean Evaningo Sanders with a year older with a side of mango.
I also want to bring back jazzercise outfits just casually.
Let's do it. We wear them. We could wear
I
matching
would love
ones
to do that.
to
Like
the Rattlecast.
basically like the workout outfits. Mine are like I'm like halfway there.
Yeah, you are. Okay.
So
next, let's go to Sujuka Lucky.
Hi.
Hi.
Yeah, thanks so much for joining us.
Yeah.
For the first time.
Yeah, it's just wonderful bringing out having new people here.
Yeah.
Thanks so much for
where are you
coming.
calling from?
From Cleveland, Ohio.
Great.
Cleveland
Home of
Heights,
George
yeah.
Laguerre. Great.
Yes, that's right. I listen to the podcast all the time, so I feel like a celebrity today because I am with you.
Aw, well, it's great to meet you.
Yeah, definitely.
I was looking at the prompt at 11 last night, and I said to my spouse, I said, I don't think I have any poem on food, do I? And he said, what about that poem? And I won't give away the food right now because it's a little bit of a surprise. It's a little quirky taste that I have for it. And so I'm going to read it about that. So, looking for little deaths. But then, how many times do I wander into the kitchen, finding my way to these mini suicides? A whole carton of ice cream, a bag of potato chips, even sweetened condensed milk. I make a hole in the can. Then I make another one on the opposite side. I pour off white sludge into a tablespoon, It shimmers in the starlight, peeping through the window above the kitchen sink. Sticky pearls tumble from the orifice onto my silky nightshirt, pulled taut over my ribs. I lap it up hungrily and jerk the canister again and again until the black hole swallows me whole. Even though I shudder, sorrowful and loud, the neighbors never hear my joyride to the moon.
Well, I really enjoyed your description here. And then the way you started the poem with "but then," it has that immediate raise, like we're in the middle of something and it's starting, like when a movie starts in the middle of a scene, how we're already, and because of that, it feels so intimate from the start. So we really get to feel like we're let in on this secret moment. So I really enjoyed the poem.
Yeah. Very cool.
Yeah,
and 1 hour before the deadline to start
Just
it.
it. Way to go.
Yeah, it's
inspiring others.
It's never
Yeah.
too late.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Well, thanks so much.
Yeah. But that was Suzannah Lakey with Looking for Little Deaths. Yeah. Very cool. Well, let's go next to Rick Pongratz.
Hello. How are
Hey,
you?
Rick. Good. We're so glad to see you and that you
Hi.
let us into the kitchen with your family for this poem.
I know. I'm so excited to be here and to share this experience that we had when we first introduced the family to jalapeno poppers. So I have two little ones that are along for the ride here. So I'll just jump in.
Great.
Family's first foray into jalapeno poppers. It was Saturday night, fever dancing across my tongue, and John Travolta is sashaying. The disco ball is, oh God, it hurts, spinning round my cheeks, burning pinprick holes through me. The lights are shining out onto everyone. My partner, playing it cool, says they taste like. She stops, pops her collar, hair goes big. She's dancing through another decade. Neon. She's tasting neon, but won't admit it. I know from the multicolor fluorescent beads of sweat streaming down her face. My oldest yowls from the floor. She says she tastes Beethoven, freaking Beethoven. Rhythmic D major chords pounding through her. And dog. She tastes slimy, wet dog. It's her dog. Tail thumping, drool streaming down on the kid's face. My youngest screams betrayal. Tastes why. Double fisting glasses of milk. Tears add to the seasoning. Hollers jingle bells, tastes jingle bells ringing in her ears. All of us taste the room tilting. We hold hands for balance and collectively take a breath when the little one says, Daddy, can we have them again tomorrow?
That's great. I love that ending. And then, too, this is the one. So we were watching the
Right
movie
after, yeah,
Beethoven.
right. We watched it last night.
Yeah.
And then afterwards, I was like, oh my gosh, I can't believe Beethoven, which I learned is from 1992, came out because it's like Lizzie's favorite movie, and we were celebrating her birthday yesterday, so we just watched it. And to say this poem has like Beethoven vibes throughout too, like the comedy and how it's like unfurling over and over in like this bigger and bigger snowball way, like it feels like the movie too,
does,
which
yeah.
I mean is a real compliment because I loved the movie. I was very suspicious
that's
going in.
Surprising, yeah. I didn't think we'd like it as much, but we did.
I did, yeah.
Yeah,
Lizzie's favorite movie.
It was a fun. So it was a fun night, and now it's our Christmas Eve tradition. We have
Aw.
them every.
Very
Oh,
cool.
that's great. Just add in watching Beethoven too.
We will do that. You bet. Thank you.
Thanks so much, Rick. Great to see you.
Yeah, that was Rick Pongratz with Family's First Foray into Jalapeno Poppers.
Now we need a sequel too to what the second one was like. Every
Family's
year, an
second
annual
foray.
poem.
Family's third foray.
Yes,
Just keep
exactly.
going. Yeah,
Mhm.
exactly.
Yep, and we need some more '90s movies reference.
Yeah, well, I don't know if it's more the food or the Billy Collins Be the Guest, but so many fun, poems going on.
Well,
this
there
week.
were a lot. And a lot were submitted too. I should say it was harder than anticipated to whittle the list down this week already from the gate. So I wanted to put I had like 30 people, and I was like, I can't do 30 poems. We're trying to make the show shorter, not longer. So speaking of which,
let's go on to Danielle LeBrun Provost, a first-time caller again. Great.
Hi. Thank
Hi,
you for
Danielle.
having me.
Oh, we're so
Hi.
glad you're here. It's so nice to make a new friend. Where are you calling from?
Northern California.
Great.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So,
so this poem, I guess I should first say this poem is dedicated to anyone who has a loved one with a food allergy. It's called Peanut Butter. I crack open the jar in the Trader Joe's parking lot, unable to wait a second longer. Only a minute left before I race back to the carpool line. This opportunity to be alone with sticky fingers and a wet tongue may not happen again for weeks. I check for the EpiPen automatically in my handbag. I can't help it. My eyes roll back. Was that a giggle? As creamy ecstasy fills my mouth. Day hikes and daycare, Grandma Ruth with a side of chips, Halloween, birthday piñatas, Elvis singing Blue Moon at the tailgate, my sun-drenched face in sticky bliss at the family picnic. I watch clouds spread across the sky and think of that missing page in his scrapbook. Let's call it First Lick. Tiny coughs, red blotches blooming like watercolors, gulping for air, tiny hands grabbing for mine, a 911 dispatcher whispering, "Stay calm." Another woman sees me through the car window frowning as I wipe down the seats, eyes low. The jar rattles as it hits the trash can. We say our goodbyes. The windows are down now as I drive to preschool pickup, letting out whatever is left of the nutty perfume, the taste lingering on the roof of my mouth like an old friend. His tiny body clambers inside singing nursery rhymes, jelly on his cheek. You're missing nothing, kid, I think to myself, stomach churning at my own lie.
Yeah, well, I think you captured that so well, and I can say your poem was in part dedicated to us because we have a child with a lot of food allergies, and she can't have peanut butter also, so can relate. And I think you captured and let us in this intimate moment, and it felt really like risking something to share that. So I really enjoyed it.
Thank you.
Thanks so much, Danielle.
Thanks so much for sharing that. Yeah. That's Danielle Provost with peanut butter. Next, let's go to Jeff Stumpo.
Hey, y'all.
Hey, Jeff. I'm already laughing as your haiku springs to my mind that you're about to share with us.
Yeah, the haiku is either going to make it or break it for anyone who reads this. So last week I set out to write something elegant and lovely, and I think I did okay at that. And then this week I'm like, no, I'm doing a persona poem as one of the squirrels in our backyard. So
I do not think anyone will call this elegant.
No.
That's great.
I'm just going to do it.
Okay.
Chitter chatter. You, like Yahweh, knew what you set in that yard and what it would do to me. Certainly you told the birds they were the chosen ones, their ruffled colors marking them for the children you loved best. But in addition to granting me the knowledge of when I was being mocked, you gave me claws and the knowledge of how to defy your gravity. I gripped the thin strip of metal and hoisted myself into the box, my fur stuck armor thick with myriad seeds. I stuffed my mouth, glutton for the forbidden, every dry crunch like eating the earth, or like tasting heaven as it fell. You flew to the door, shook your godly fist and thundered. And I ran, yes, I took off like a bolt. The trickster does not fight Typhon. You set a disc below the feeder and thought yourself prepared. I leapt from the wall. You shifted the shepherd's crook. I found a chair you'd not considered. You should know you cannot deny the clever forever, that it was not the crackling delights hovering that tempted me, but your own damn hubris. I had already prepared for winter, my future in, oh yes, the earth, and I had all the time in the world to scatter your best laid plans. Taste of these nuts in your mouth. I'm so sorry.
I'm sorry. I think what this poem needs is to live as a video poem, and you have to do like some really, like, you have to find, we have a good squirrel.
A talking squirrel.
I might be able to hook you up with a pretty sweet squirrel video that you could use, because I think this needs to be a video poem.
I can start reaching out to animators.
That's great. Thanks for sharing that inelegant poem, Jeff.
Thanks, Jeff.
Thank you, everybody. Bye-bye.
It was Jeff Stumpo with Chitter Chatter. All right. Next, let's go to Casey Goodall.
Okay. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yeah,
Hi.
okay.
So I just want to say that I wrote this poem while I was walking my dog Aussie. I texted it to myself. It was just like the pattern here. I don't use a paper and a pen.
Mm-hmm.
I use my text on my phone. So,
Wow.
grasshopper. Are you ready? Okay.
Yeah,
for me
we're
to go?
ready.
Yeah.
Grasshopper. Earl tells me grasshopper will make me a mountain man. We each pinch a live one between trigger finger and thumb, wings fluttering, urgent against our knuckles. He shows me how to work it into my wide oval mouth, deep onto my waiting tongue, fishhook feet clutch at the bumpy hollow there. A quick scratchy tickle as wiry legs push up to get away. Molars are best, I find, to crush the crunchy husk, to free the yellow flow of ooze, a hint of leaf sap under salt. Mineral, faintly sweet, faintly fatty, a neutral slickness with a hint of sun-baked grass. Overall, nicely mild. Earl says to squish my eyes and swallow, feel the red sun transform me. But when they open, I see two small boys in a pasture. Earl says to try again.
Well, I thought you did an incredible job describing the actual taste of the grasshopper. That's such a hard thing to do, right? To actually describe the taste of something people aren't familiar with. And I mean, you had to get a little gross with it and you allowed yourself, but I was like, that sounds kind of good. Like I don't want that.
It wasn't that good. It was overall nicely mild. That's the best you can say about it.
Well,
but it was memorable.
Right. So you wrote this on your phone?
Well, I was walking along, and as I think of something, I kind of laugh, and I would text it to myself so that when I got home, I could put it together. So it was little chunks here and there, and then I had to refine it. And when I got to the Earl says to try again part, I laughed out loud and had to put it in my phone.
You thought, hey, I found my ending. Well, that's great. Well, that's wonderful. It was worth the effort with the texting yourself. So thanks so much. And great to see you, Casey.
Yeah, definitely.
Thank you for letting me on.
Thanks.
Yeah, thanks. It was Casey Goodall, another first-timer with Grasshopper. Let's go to Thomas Nixon to close it out.
Okay.
Good evening.
Hi.
Hey, Thomas, great to see you.
Great to see you. Thanks for having me. I know just enough Italian to be embarrassed by my pronunciation of this title, but luckily it's only the title that has Italian in it, so we should be good. Okay. It's called Frutti di Mare. Only an imagined past can turn the softest muscles into splinters on the tongue, the waiter stresses. He's talking about ancient keels, boats with sails that didn't travel past the harbor very far. He scrapes a chair up to our table, waiting for an answer. It tastes good, I say. It should taste like wood, he says. Before sailors were baiting the lines, picking fish like grapes out of the sea, he says. Like gravel streets instead of paved. Wheels much slower. Girls in pretty dresses, and not as crowded during winters. He sighs. The distant engines churn.
Well, Thomas, as always, I'm amazed at how much meat you can put in a very, very slim poem. I'm getting hungry.
Yeah, nice metaphor there. Yeah.
I know you looked at me like, are you really doing an impromptu meat metaphor? Okay. Anyway, what really has stayed with me is he scrapes a chair up to our table. Like the idea of just that, that's really stuck with me. And like, that is so much. And you know how you go to these specific places, and you know, when you stand up, like your chair is really going to scrape. Like, I could just hear it. And it really put me like right at the table with you. So I really enjoyed reading it.
Well, thank you very much. I'm glad I got that one in there because that came, the benefits of form, that came because I really wanted grapes. So I kind of went backwards and was trying to figure out. And then once I had that, it felt like it clicked. So.
That's so wonderful. That's wonderful.
Yeah.
Great.
Well, that's always so much variety.
Yeah,
too,
I know. It's absolutely amazing how many different
editor's
poems.
best friend.
He's been in Poets Respond how many times?
A bunch, yeah.
A whole bunch of times, yes. Yeah. A whole meal of times.
Oh, thank you both.
Right,
and all the puns, too.
Too many. Okay,
yeah,
thank you, Thomas.
Yeah, there's Thomas Mixon with Frutti di Mare. Right?
Honestly, I thought it was pretty good, but others probably did not.
Okay. Well, that's going to wrap it up. I think the first invited prompt line's a huge success. It was really fun having these cherry-picked food poems this week.
Oh my God, we got to cut ourselves off at this point, I think. No, it was wonderful because, like I said, some of those poets are poets have been submitting to our prompt category for a long time. We've never gotten to see. So I was really excited that every single person we invited came too. So that was great. Yeah.
Yeah.
So thanks everybody so much. And remember to get your poems in by next Sunday night if you want to be considered to be a reader on the invited prompt lines next week.
Yeah, but you don't have to do that part of it. You could always just submit for the prompt poem of the month. Up till the end of the month, you can write new food poems still. You can write for last week's prompt, the week before. Anything is valued and relative for the prompt lines, prompt poet of the month, up until January 31st this month. Yeah. All right. And so, let's close it out with a haiku, Katie.
Great.
What did you got for a haiku?
Well, I went very esoteric. I presented a classic Rattle style poem at the beginning of this segment, and I will end with an unrattly esoteric haiku.
Okay.
Electric leaf blower snow globe. So this is because Octavia was outside and he was blowing our lawn, and I was in there and I was like, this is the coolest thing. The leaves are flying. And I was like pretending like I couldn't see that there was an obvious source. But then also I pictured a snow globe with a tiny leaf blower inside. So I'm living in miniatures.
Oh, that's great. Yeah, I meant like we are the snow globe.
Yes.
You know?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Very cool. Yeah. And you even said it out loud, I think. You just said that.
Yeah, I did. I said I wrote a haiku, electric leaf blower snow globe. We called it out.
Okay.
Yeah. Not 575.
Not well. I don't know. Let's count. No, it's not.
It's not even 3 lines. Okay.
Yeah.
What did you come up with?
Okay, so mine. So, daughter Jo was at played Beth in Little Women over the weekend. So that inspired this haiku.
Oh.
Holding up the fourth wall, my daughter's death scene.
Aww.
Yeah, holding up the fourth wall, my daughter's death scene. That is a haiku for this week, and that is the show for this week. Thanks, everybody, for sharing all you did in the prompt lines. It really was wonderful. Great edition. I think it's going to be really fun doing this moving forward. Great format.
Well, I'm really excited.
Really fun having Billy Collins as the guest today. Really cool episode. I'm sure we got more viewers than normal, which is cool, too. If you are still watching, make sure you click the like button, share, tell people this was fun. That always helps.
And subscribe. Come back.
And subscribe. we want to beat the Poetry Foundation as far as subscribers, getting close. So that's really fun. Now we have a prompt coming up. For next week. And this is going to be the last prompt for January.
Yes.
Still submit your prompt poems. You try to do it by Sunday so you can be considered for this. So click that box if you think you can make it in the submittable form for next week's show. And and also join the community prompt lines.
The community reading.
Community reading with Dick Westheimer hosting that.
We will be posting the link to in the Rattlecast Prompts Facebook group. That's a really important group to join if you want to be part of this community. So check it out there.
Great place. Yep,
Great.
find it there. The daily poem email will be at the bottom of there too, other places. So definitely join. Okay, so the prompt for next week, without further ado, Katie, is what?
We are going to write a poem about a time something was put somewhere that it didn't belong. Include an unusual detail about the person that found it.
Interesting. Okay, so that is the prompt for this week. Write a poem about a time something was put somewhere that it didn't belong. Include an unusual detail about the person that found it.
So as always, looking for unusual takes too. And
Definitely.
Unusual takes and diversity means form. It means, long poems, short poems, crazy poems. Send your best.
Sane poems, I think?
Mildly.
Okay. Anyway, that's going to wrap it up. And next week's guest on the Rattlecast is going to be Liz Robbins. So subscribers all know her as the author of this really fascinating book, Backlit, in which Liz Robbins enters the minds of sex workers after interviewing a bunch of them. We're going to talk about her process. It's one of the only sort of books we've published, I think, that includes like investigative journalism as an aspect of it. So that's going to be really fun to talk to Liz about. She's going to be the guest next week, Monday, January 26th, the regular time, 8 p.m. Eastern, 5 p.m. Pacific. Hope to see you there. Hope you have a great week. In the meantime, we'll talk to you later. Goodbye.
Good night.